This is meant to be a video demonstrating a game for two players played by me single-handedly. It's not meant to explain or detail eh, all the rules. It's meant mostly to show the flow of the game. I will be explaining some things along the way, but I won't be explaining everything. And certainly it is not my intention to make always the best moves or win with one particular side. The video is also unscripted, so there may be lots of silly things happening along the way. In any case, first things first, if we play the game, we need to conclude the setup, and setup for in the game depends. Particular steps vary between the number of the players that play the game. In case of the two-player game, the additional extra 10 event cards are not being used, so I just put them away. The event cards, 30, are shuffled, let's say twice, and then 3 cards are dealt out to both players. For now, I will keep them hidden or face down, but once the game will start in the earnest, I will flip them back and will play with open hands. Next step is the crisis cards. There are 9 total in the game. In two-player game, there are 7 being used, so at random I take away 2, leaving 7, and I add them to the event deck, shuffle them together, let's say twice again, 31 cards in the event deck. The next step is to populate the court. In two-player game, we are using 8 courtier cards, so shuffle, and using the holding boxes as a kind of guide, I just set out 8 courtier cards, once again face down first, but nevertheless they are supposed to be 8 of them. Face down because next step is really about players claiming at random 2 courtiers from those 8. The sequence doesn't really matter as long as it is done one by one. Each player places their influence token with 2 masks, so with full control, on any courtier card that they fancy without knowing what they are really getting yet. And when this is done, when 2 players control 2 courtiers each, we reveal the cards. And the last step of the setup process is assigning titles, starting with the courtiers with the lowest rank, so number 1 if possible, number 2 or 3. We assign the titles, so it does look like Chief Minister, the first title to assign, goes to Laodike. No one controls Laodike for now. The general goes to number 2, so Hermeias becomes a leader of the army, and the Achaeus, number 3, receives a title of treasurer, Red Office. Those offices, as we have seen just moments before, they are coming with the numbers of their own, and the first player that begins the game with first round of verse is indicated by the office of the lowest rank. So because red controls the office that is of lower rank than treasurer, or I could say of higher rank than treasurer, this means that red player will start first. It may happen in a two-player game that the neither one of both players will will start the game without controlling a courtier with assigned title. In this case, the first player role is indicated by the lowest, whoever controls the lowest rank of a courtier from among the player controlled courtiers. So this is the setup, and in a moment we'll start the game in the earnest. So if the red player is supposed to begin, we will draw the first card. It's a crisis, so it's going to be revealed. I will also reveal the hand. One glory token to the revealed crisis, and the red player still needs fourth card that is not a crisis. Now, the crisis that is here is a royal crisis. It can be only resolved by the person who is holding red title at the time. Right now it's a blue player, so there is not that much that the red player can do about this. Mm, unless, unless, but this is going to be expensive and maybe ultimately not worth it. So we will play the 3-point card, 4 points, and we will just place 2 points on Hegesianax. This gives me the ability to use his special ability, and I will use this to draw the next courtier. Irene, not bad, but I will place one mask for the third point on Simonides instead. Special ability has been used, so it's over to blue. And what blue has drawn? Well, 3-pointer. Not that bad. The other cards are also relatively powerful. But the easiest answer would be, I suppose, in doing. I'm spending the card for points, so 3 points from the card. One goes on controlling Laodike to control the courtier with a title, and 2 points. I can try to use 2 points to resolve this crisis. The way that it works is 2 points from the card. I will be rolling 2 dice. This is red crisis, so the red ability is going to be used. So 1 from the skill of the courtier. Next is the possibility, whenever you are holding the title, you can always decrease the value of the resource. Drop the resource 1 box to the left to score hits on 1 more. +1 to each die roll. We are scoring hits on 5 or 6s. If a chaos player will decide to do this, it's 4, 5, 6. And last but not least, this is important, the value here, it also indicates how many extra dice we are using if we are resolving real crisis. So decision whether to move the box or not does not change the value of the kingdom economy just yet. We are rolling 5 dice and we hit on 4, 5, 6. We need at least 1 hit. And we have 2 hits, so it's not the major success, but minor one. This means that manpower would be going up by 1, but it's capped, so it stays where it is. As long as king is just a king and not a great king, the resource is capped at there. But the green resource drops down 1. The good news is the real crisis has been resolved and the glory to Arceus is given. The blue player receives 1 point on scoring board. The card, the crisis card that was successfully resolved, is collected by the successful player. And I have used all my points from the card, but I still can use special ability, in this case Euphorion, adding 1 glory point to his card. So not a bad turn, not a bad turn at all. Over to the reds. Drawing the card. It's a crisis. This time it's epidemic. We place the glory token. We still have to draw the replacement. It's not a crisis. So question is, what happens now? Well, what we can do now is maybe we can help ourselves. Maybe we can. Because Hermeias, hearing that there is the epidemic, it's time to organize a military parade. Green resource drops by 1, but glory is given to the whoever holds the blue office, in this case Hermeias. So red player gets 1. Special abilities? No, not really. So over to blue. Blue draws a card. It's a crisis, so we have to reveal it. Now what is important, the glory token is given to each revealed crisis. So epidemic becomes, solving successfully epidemic becomes more prestigious. And the blue player still needs the replacement card, because the subsequent card is another crisis. It gets discarded. It's not used in this game, and the blue player keeps on drawing. Oh no, another crisis that we'll ignore. Okay, so with this, it once again becomes a question: what and where to use. Let's play it safe and play this card for points, 2 points, to try and resolve the epidemic. And we'll use Euphorion for this. So 2 points from the card, 3 points from the skill of Euphorion, and this is it. We just need 1 success, but we'll be losing resources if it will be only 1 success. How many 5s and 6s? Well, 2. If 2 are obtained, economy tanks by 1 and philanthropy tanks by 1, but Euphorion gains 2 points. Now, because the resource dropped to 0, this is not a the auto loss just yet. If the resource drops below 0, this is a loss. But King is not necessarily happy that his philanthropy is spent, that his goodwill is ridiculed on the streets. So the blue player who brought around the resource to 0 receives royal ire. Royal ire is basically a penalty when you do something that is problematic, and in this case it's mostly about bringing the resources to 0, close to bankruptcy. It's 1 victory point less on the scoring board. So officially blue player has 3, should have 4, but we will just increase him to 3, or increase him to 4 and then decrease him to 3. There is a way of getting rid of this, but for now it is what it is. The Roman Seleucid War can be moved up here. Special ability on the blue side? No, not really. So over to red player. Draws a card. It's not a crisis. Uh, but I don't think that it's time to mm, try to resolve Roman Seleucid War. It's like this time it's time to kill off the Euphorion, who is this clearly the source of the all evil, because the blue player doesn't have cards that can mitigate this hostile action. The glory is taken away and returns to the pool. The influence token returns to the player. This is returned to the mat just as well. Euphorion card is removed from the game, never to be seen again. But we do need to draw the replacement because the basic number of the courtiers revealed cannot change. And special ability of red player has been used, but now is the question what to do next. And one thing that certainly can be done now that the resources are low would be claiming the title. Claiming the title has the minimum cost of 1, or I should say it's the sorry the I misspoke. The cost for the action is 0, and because Laodice doesn't have any glory, this cost is just 0, so I can take this title away, and I still have 2 points. It's time to bring the Simonides back for 1. Mm, and let's start claiming Menipus for 2. Over to the blue player. It's not a crisis. Now, however, I will play the military colonies. And the way that it works, the resource is capped at 2, it stays there, but the glory is given to the person who holds a chaos. There are 2 possibilities here. One, the royal ire can be returned to the mat on the favor side, or we can add the glory token to a chaos. And by the way, the blue faction right now has officially 0 point because he is penalized by the royal ire. So I will just use this card to remove this royal ire from us, avert the evil gaze of the monarch, and blue faction has indeed 1 point. Over to the red. It's not a crisis. Mm, it may be time to shore up our situation. I play this, so the red resource goes up, and the glory is given to. I choose Hegesianax. He has the green skill, so red faction soars, and we can use the special ability of Simonides to refresh the assassination ability of Heliodorus. Blue player needs to treat carefully. Over to him. And now, once again, it is important in this game to control more than one courtier, just because it's dangerous to go out alone. So for this reason, I will use Strength of Diplomacy for points 2 points, and I will just claim Minio and Irene. Special abilities? No, not really, so over to red. It's not a crisis, but now red clearly has the advantage in tempo. Thinking about the choices here. The easiest probably would be to play this card. It's bringing red resource up. It's bringing one green resource up, and whenever this happens, the royal favor is given to the player who performs such a deed. And last but not least, the glory token goes to the courtier with a blue skill, in this case Simonides. So right now red player is on 3. Over to the mm, over to the blue player. It's not a crisis. So I think it's time to weaken the hold of the red faction and use the event of Battle of Magnesia against the player. This once again brings the green resource to 0 and creates another ire of a king. But I also can remove one mask from up to 3 courtiers. So I'm just going to undermine as many important red courtiers as possible. And maybe I'll just flip it to like this. Simonides will suffer, not Hegesianax. This is done. Special abilities? No, not really. Over to red. Assassination card. That's nice, but we may need something else, at least right now. Red player, red player. Well, let's just not move the resource as it's capped, but increase the glory of bannered Simonides. Over to blue. Not a crisis. Thinking. Yeah, blue player should be with royal ire at 0 at this very moment. So what can be done? Let's try and rebuild the position. I am not removing the royal ire, I just get myself 1 point here. No special abilities. Over to the red player. Not a crisis. Maybe it's time to use this for the event. Red resource drops by 1. Glory to the red skilled courtier, for example Hegesianax, and ever increasing the gap between us. No special ability. Over to blue. With those cards, let's hurt red player a little more. playing this for the event, so the economy goes down to 1, and the green skilled courtier can lose the glory. So 1 glory point is taken away from the red player. Special abilities for the blue? The answer is no, so red player draws a card. Nice card, but I don't think that we'll be seeing Hannibal in this particular game. So I will try to protect the office. Protect or not, actually. Maybe not. Maybe I will sacrifice Hannibal for this purpose. So now if I would like to claim the red office, claiming office cost basic 1, but because there is a glory, it's increased with +1. So claiming this title actually cost me 2, and the office can be transferred for 2 points to Menipus. I have 1 point remaining, and just to put a pressure on the blue player, we can do this with Heliodorus. He is ready. But for now, over to blue. It's a crisis. Readjusting the space here a little bit. The already revealed crisis receives the glory, and the new crisis receives the glory. Replacement card for the blue. And now big question, what can be done? Well. The office is not held by me, but we can always go for the event. Blue resource is kept out. The red courtier receives the glory. Let's say it's Irene. We are clawing our way back. And this is it. The over to red. We will try to use the 3 points to resolve the crisis. Resolve the crisis with Hegesianax. Expansion of Antioch. So 3 points means 3 dice. The red skill of Hegesianax, as indicated on the crisis cards, 2 more points. And we cannot use the bonus for holding the title because it would spell automatic loss. Now, however, what cannot be done is we need at least 1 success, at least 1, 5 or 6. If the crisis will be failed, we will effectively bankrupt the kingdom. The kingdom survives with 1 success, with 1 5 on 5 dice. So the economy actually is tanking, but the green resource goes up by 1. And in this particular case, at least with the rules as written right now, it would mean that the red faction deserves both royal ire for bringing the resource down to 0, but should receive royal favor because they brought up another resource from 0. In this case, I will say that the royal favor just stays where it is. The glory goes to Hegesianax, and the red player resolved successfully 1 crisis. 1 point more. Special abilities, the answer is no, not at this moment. Over to blue. Crisis. We can see that the Roman Seleucid War is getting more and more prestigious by the second. This may be a big game changer if it's happening. The blue player needs to draw the replacement, and now we can do something with this new card. We can neutralize the superiority of the red player. Namely, if I will play this Scandal at Court, I can remove 2 masks from Hegesianax, so the red player would lose 2 points with this, and then I can also remove 1 point either from Hermeias. Let's put it away from Hermeias. So effectively, right now red player has only 2 points on their side. No ability to use the special ability. So over to red. Red draws a card. It's not a crisis. But question is whether to regain Hermeias or regain maybe someone else. And the answer may be actually in Hegesianax. Just for the learning purposes, I suppose. It's not, once again, the best decision that can be done right now at this very moment. This costs 2 points from the card because the courtier has the glory, but it gets those 2 points associated with Hegesianax back to the red faction. Special abilities? Well, truth be told, probably... Well, maybe I'll wait with this. So over to blue. It's not a crisis. Now we'll try to make a move against the big crisis. I'm using 2 points to place 1 mask on Hermeias. This gives me 1 point more. Cannot do any special abilities. Over to red. And red player... Red player sees what is happening. Blue player is preparing to take on the Roman Seleucid War, and it may be problematic. So I will simply use the event to try and remove Hermeias. But this time, blue player can use the reaction card. There is a hostile action played against Hermeias. So what Hermeias can do is he can try and protect himself, but I believe that on 2 dice I can roll 5 or 6. This should be quite possible, pravda? Like this. So by spending this 1 card, I simply negate the special ability, not the special ability, but the card being played. It just so happens that Heliodorus is still ripe and ready, and he does a second assassination attempt that cannot be blocked. It just happened in this particular case that the same player that controlled the special ability of Heliodorus had also the assassination card. Hermeias, like Euphorion before, is removed from the game. Sweet dreams, my prince. The replacement is being placed, and now we need to find who is holding the office of the general. We start from the lowest possible rank, and it just looks like Laodike receives the title. Okay, over to blue. Now, blue player has to fill up his hand up to 4 cards, so he draws 2. This is the price of the using reactions in this particular case. And Laodike cannot try to resolve the Roman Seleucid war because she has no military ability. She is holding the office, but she is just unable to even try and resolve this. Transferring the office would cost me 2 points, let's say to Achaeus, and then I do not have enough points to try and resolve the crisis. So something else needs to be happening, and this something else is visible in the figure of the person who came in to the map. So I will claim his soul with 2 points. I claim Lysias, and what I can do is to use his special ability, which is about transferring the all glory tokens associated with one courtier to another courtier, and I will take it from Hegesianax. There is red player doesn't have a card that can block this sort of hostile action, therefore we just switch places. Oops. 2 points for blue and 2 less for red. The special ability and all the points from the card have been used, so now it's the last card. Because this is the last card in the drawing deck, this means that after resolution of this card, the game is effectively open. And over, I should say, over. And we will do the final scoring, most likely. So, what can be done with for the green, not the green resource, sorry, for the red player? Red player controls the office, the red office. Uh, is there something that I can do to upset the difference? And it just may be that there isn't. It just so happens. Hmm. Hmm. Best that I can do right now at this juncture, yeah, would be probably playing this for the event. At the bottom, manpower is capped, and the +1 for the bannered courtier, who would be Simonides in this particular case. This is just 1 point advantage. The game is over, and now the final scoring entails using the value of the resources to give to the player who controls the particular office. So we see that, for example, the blue player receives the mm, 2 points, 4 plus 2 because Laodika is blue. Just checking. Achaeus 1, 3, 5, and 6. 1, 3, 4, 6, and Royal Ire. So this should be 5. Now with the red player, the value of the office that he holds, the title, red title is worth 0. The green title is worth 1. The last consideration that we are considering at the moment is to penalize the players for remaining unresolved crises. So if we have blue and green crisis, it means that the offices associated with those colors would be worth one less. So in effect, in with this regard, with this consideration, the blue player would still prevail, but the points would be decreased for respective factions. It looks like the blue player has won, and this is how the two-player game can look like. Sure, in the future, I will try to provide also the videos covering the examples of 3 players and 4 players, because the interaction between the multiple players is slightly different in this game, even if the underlying rules remain mostly the same. Thank you for your patience, dear audience, and until next time.